Having opened the conference, having set the scene, having provided the context for where we are and some of the challenges we have, we're now diving into some of the work of the CRC. When I say diving into it, we're going to have a few areas of project highlights and focus and some overviews from each of our programs, recognising that, especially given that we haven't met together since April 2019, there's a lot of activity that has taken place, there's a lot of good research to talk about, but we won't have the time to go into every project in that sort of detail. And to be fair, I understand that not everybody wants to go into detail about every specific project. But hopefully over the next couple of hours and after lunch will be enough of an overview to give you a taste and to know where to go to and find out more information. So my task when introducing that is to give an overview of what's been happening in the CRC without stealing the thunder from any of the program leaders or project leaders. My talk was titled 50-Year Review, or Year 5 in Review, but I'm going to speak a bit more about the first 5 years, especially given that we haven't met since 2019. Obviously there's been lots of online communications, lots of written communication, but have the opportunity to speak to you face to face, it's fantastic. So yes, as Paul said earlier, we are now just over 5 years into our 10-year timeline with funding from the Commonwealth and our partners. The end is closer than the beginning, and so it creates certain scary challenges, but also focuses the mind on what we do need to do going forward. And tomorrow with the Soil CRC participants, we'll focus a bit more on what we do need to do going forward. To date, we've had around 40 projects that the Soil CRC has invested in, has delivered, is delivering. In some cases, it's starting to deliver. We've committed over $32 million of our Soil CRC funds. That has leveraged an additional $60 to $65 million of participant or partner funds through the in-kind contributions that are being made, both through staff and through the resources that are being provided. And let me just acknowledge that and recognise that it's a very important part of what does enable the CRC to happen. It's not just about the cash, but it's about the in-kind contributions that our participants are making as well. In that period, we've also leveraged or attracted another $4 million of additional funds from RDCs, from the Commonwealth Government, from a range of not-for-profit and private sector partners, investors, largely on a project-by-project basis, but at around $4 million it starts to add up. And it's hard to quantify this, but through the partnerships, the networks that have been developed in the CRC, and reference was made to in the last set of talks, there's now a whole lot of investments and projects being attracted that actually don't involve the CRC directly, but through the partnerships that have been happening, people are now working together, applying for, getting their own successful projects, and that's fantastic. You know, in fact, if you can make it happen without going to the transaction costs of going through me and my team in the CRC, that's great. All power to you. And so that's good as well. From a student perspective, as will be highlighted later today, PhDs are a very important part of all CRCs and a very important part of the Soil CRC. When we met in April 2019 in Newcastle, we had 3 PhDs students here at the conference. Today we've got 34 PhD students with us. And the students yesterday had their own workshop and focused on that development, coming together. They've been working together online with Cassandra Walder, our PhD program coordinator, and we're doing more so. But let me just tell you the story of those 3 PhD students so far. One of them pulled out. It happens. Not every student that starts finishes. He went other ways. 2 of them have now completed. Zahinga Hussain has finished and is now being employed by West Midlands Group. And Zhang Yulu has finished, is now being employed by Griffith University. And they are just 2 great success stories of the students being trained, completing, and actually, especially in the case that they'll say Zhang, employed by one of our grower groups. And so there lies a potential pathway, not the only pathway, but potential pathway for our other PhD students, and also a benefit of our PhD program to our participants and the broader stakeholders, soil stakeholder community in Australia about their capability development through the CRC. So very focused on that aspect of the CRC, and we've got hopefully a lot more good news stories to come there. Since we started, and since April 2019, and especially in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of focus, a lot of interest in soils at a whole range of levels, and in particular at the national level. And we now have a national soil strategy in place. The National Soil Strategy was released by Minister Lillard in May last year, and it outlines 3 high-level goals for soils in Australia. 1, to prioritise soil health. 2, to empower soil innovation and stewardship. And 3, to strengthen soil knowledge and capability. There's a range of additional funding that's gone to specific program measures to support some of those goals, but it also reflects a lot of existing work that we're doing, gives us a bit of a focus and at a higher level context, or indeed strategy for us to align with. And so those 3 goals: prioritise soil health, empower soil health, innovation and stewardship, strengthen soil knowledge and capability. You can see just off the bat just how the Soil CRC does deliver to those goals of the National Soil Strategy, and will continue to do so. I recently had the great opportunity to attend the 22nd World Congress of Soil Science in Glasgow in Scotland, and it's held every 4 years. It's great to be travelling again and to engage with the global soil science community, and sit and listen and observe and reflect upon what we do in Australia. I used to go to those sort of conferences and eagerly take down notes about every little bit of technical information that was being said, and now I realise I don't really need to know all about what's happening in pH and acidity managed in Burkina Faso or something. But what I do need to understand and reflect upon is what is happening overseas, what are we doing in Australia, how do we compare, what do we do, what can we do better, what can we do differently. And there's a whole range of themes coming through. There's a whole lot of talk about soil carbon sequestration, surprise, surprise. But there's a whole range of project presenters, dare I say, especially from Europe and America, who are coming up and talk, soil scientists saying, oh, and what we're doing now in this project, we're actually working with farmers. We're getting farmers involved in helping to design and develop our projects. Yeah, good on you. Yeah, that's good. And so, a sense of pride and perhaps a sense of pride that I think we're not doing it perfectly in Australia. We're not doing it perfectly in the Soil CRC. There's a lot of things we can do better, but we are having a good hard go, and we've been doing this for a few years, and especially in the Soil CRC. And it comes to the fore in conferences like this. Yesterday in the project workshops, to see it happening, you'll see it more for this program, the engagement of our end users, in our case reflected through our grower groups, engagement with them in helping to set the priorities, helping to develop proposals, helping to implement projects, helping to interpret findings, helping to communicate and extend results. And I think that's in the sense of where CRCs are making connection between research and industry, and in our case in soils and agriculture, but industry largely being represented through our end users and those grower groups. I'd like to think that we're not doing it perfectly, but there's lots of things we are doing well, and we'll hear a few more stories about that. But I really want to keep to encouraging that aspect of the CRC.